Hi, everyone. So, thank you again for your patience. Thank you, Tech Team. I like to believe that everyone here is a developer or would like to be a developer or is in the field of being a developer. That's the case, isn't it? Cool. And by reason of what just happened, it's funny to see that we have very calm developers. I mean, that's very good to see because I know when there are bugs, we can be a bit, you know. But again, it's a pleasure to be here. And my topic for today is building the future decentralized computing infrastructure for Web 3.0. Building the future decentralized computing infrastructure for Web 3.0. I am Uchechukwu Azubuko, all right, and I am lead front-end engineer at One Liquidity. And so practically, I was also the engineer who built its 6 products, right, for trading, crypto wallet, compliance services, the front-end engineer who did that. I'm also a technical content creator at ViewMastery. So if you are in Web 2.0, you should probably use JavaScript. And if you use JavaScript and you use Vue, you probably have heard of ViewMastery. And so I collaborate with the core team at Vue.js to write articles and review them and publish them for the Vue community. And also a co-organizer at Vue.js Nigeria. I did that with Amarachi, who is a COO at BitPower. If you probably also are familiar with companies doing stuff in Web 3.0, you probably know BitPower. Cool stuff. So another thing I think is that in talking about today's topic, it will be very important for us to, have a look at where we are coming from, right, and where we are going to. Remember, we're trying to build the future, and then in building the future, we want to recognize what is required, right? However, I also think it's important that we come to know what had existed, all right? So we would quickly just have a look at the differences in Web 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. And from there, we can be able to visualize what the future of the internet would look like or what it already looks like. And so if you're like me, okay, wait, I think I will just make this much more interactive. Can I know, what's your email address? What's your email address? Okay. What's your email address? Crazy. Hi, what's your email address? The lady with blonde hair. No, the lady with blonde hair. Your email address. Your email address. Crazy. I'm probably like the only old school here. So my that's crazy really, because my email address that I still use officially is azubukouche@yahoo.com. I mean, in 2024. So there was a time, there was a time I got that. There was a time I got that remark, and then it was clear to see that I may have used some features of Web 1, right? Because in Web 1, I use this, all right? So, I mean, if you're probably having your email address as something at gmail.com, you very likely didn't use MSN, and you very likely didn't use Explorer. True? You use I mean, but you left yahoo.com. Oh, okay, cool stuff. Okay. But is that your official? Is that your official? Okay, good stuff. For those who transitioned, it's amazing to see, because it's not scary. It made me feel like I was a bit older than you all. I'm still young, please. But again, the reason for that is just so that we can come to recognize that in as much as we are building the future, we started from somewhere. And it's great to recognize that there has been progress over the years. Okay? And so there was a Web 1.0 time, right? And what happened in this period was that most content available for use over the internet was static and read-only. Tim Berners-Lee was even the one who created the very first one, right? And so you couldn't really interact with content on the internet. And then there was a move to Web 2.0, right? Information was a bit more dynamic, and you could, manipulate and communicate with people online. And then we have Web 3.0. And so if we're able to manipulate data and communicate with people online and provide feedback, what then is the update or like the upgrade that we ought to be experiencing? And then we'll have a look at that later. But really, essentially, Web 3.0 comes with the case of privacy. It comes with the case of decentralization. And that's really the theme of Web 3.0, decentralization. Loopholes existed in Web 2.0, and I will give an instance. So say, for example, I think the most common use case would be the case of a YouTuber. When YouTubers make posts online, or whenever they have subscribers, when they make posts online, for example, and they reach a threshold where they are able to make money, they really aren't able to account for the actual amount that they ought to have received, right? And one of these comes to the fact that they can't even access the subscribers that they have who have not set their, accounts to public. So how then can you know the amount of people who may have, accessed your account or who may have eventually accessed your content? And so there is this issue of, trust. There's this issue of control, right? And so Web 3.0 comes to bridge that gap and take us further to a dimension that we now have access to our data. We are able to make use of our data in the way that we want to, right? And make or monetize from our data in the way that we want to. But in monetizing and in doing a lot with our data, we also need to recognize what powers this thing that we're talking about. Essentially, Web 3.0 is powered by the blockchain, it's powered by distributed storage, and it's powered by smart contracts. Again, like I said earlier, when you hear Web 3.0, a lot has to do with decentralization, because the whole idea of Web 3.0 is creating an avenue for data to be cut across a variety of computers in such a way that none of those computers inherently has autonomy of data. Today, when you probably do stuff with your phone, the next thing you'd see is your browser telling you to buy a shoe that you probably discussed with a friend, right? Or you go on IG, and the next thing you see is an advert of something that you had searched for. And this goes to show that our data is really not private per se, right? There's a lot more going behind the scenes with our data. We don't even know whom our data has been sold to. Sometimes you go on your email and then you see yourself receiving newsletters from someone you never, subscribed to. This must have meant that your email was probably sold to a company, very likely. And so, components that power the Web3, blockchain, distributed storage, smart contracts. Blockchain, like we've learned earlier, is essentially the foundation for Web3, right? Web3 would not happen if there is no such thing as the blockchain technology. And so it basically just ensures that there is no single entity that has control of, records or transactions that happen on the blockchain or events that happen on the blockchain, and that also the data is immutable. So think of it, for example, you have Google Sheets, right? And on the Google Sheets, there is records of transactions. it is very likely that someone goes in probably trying to commit fraud, and then they change the records. This can't happen, right, in the case of the blockchain. Everyone has access to, there is the process for which transactions are, decentralized, right? And this is also working on that, the peer-to-peer network. So there is no such single entity that has control. And the same goes with distributed storage as well. Data is not dependent on a central control. And in the case of what we experience currently, we would find that when we probably want to host our websites, we have to get in touch with one of the big four or big five. Whether it's social data, we have to get in touch with Meta, right? You want probably post on Facebook or Instagram. Twitter, you probably want to post on them. And they have access to, your data. But with Web 3.0, this issue of our data being with with an authority is really caught. And so we're able to host and manage our data on the blockchain. And this really increases privacy, it increases control. So we are not just trying to encourage, we're not just trying to even eradicate data breach, we're increasing privacy. And that's very, very important when it comes to data. Also, smart contracts. Smart contracts really tell about automation without middlemen. So think of smart contracts, for example. You probably watched Hollywood, right? Hollywood movies. And then you would see that when someone puts in an amount of money into a vending machine, say $2 just to get a bottle of Coke, they actually get the bottle of Coke for that amount, right? What this has done, or rather, that's just a very, very simple case of smart contract in action, because it has eradicated the case of them trying to give someone money and then the person trying to get the actual item that they need and then, back to them. And what can happen really is that when middlemen are involved with transactions, a lot can go wrong. A lot can really go wrong. But with Web 3.0, there is a total eradication of middlemen, and trust and transparency is ensured. And so we're going to see cases for which Web 3.0 can be made manifest. We can experience Web 3.0 in finance and in content creation. By the way, we can experience it beyond finance and content creation. In finance, you've probably heard of the word DeFi, right? We've heard of DeFi, isn't it? Cool. So DeFi means decentralized finance. And think of it just as what you probably heard people say blockchain is doing. You're able to put your money in there and lend some money, put your money probably as collateral and lend some X amount of money, or you're able to make transactions to X amount of people. What these DeFi platforms essentially are doing is that they are eradicating the need for intermediaries while performing financial transactions. And so unlike trying to send money through your bank app or through, MasterCard or Western Union, I would say, we can receive money in no time and we can be very sure that there are no hidden charges or there are no XYZ fees attached to our transactions. In content creation as well, I remember while I was in the university, I had a couple of colleagues who were using this platform called Steemit, right? So Steemit would allow people who wrote gain money from what they actually write. And so it just basically is an avenue in which Web3 empowers artists to monetize their works via NFT. And so you can be very sure that when you put up content, you are getting value for your content in the exact amount that you should get value for your content. And so if indeed your content was to be sold 2 naira per view, and it clearly showed that you had 10 views, then you should get 20 naira, right? But with the case of what we currently have in Web 2.0, it's not so clear, or we can't really trust that that is the case. We really can't trust that that's the case. I think I saw a video recently, I think it was yesterday, with all of this happening in the US election, how Kamala and Donald, and so the Alexa was asked something about Donald Trump. How many of us saw the video? So Alexa was asked something about Donald Trump. Oh, you saw the video, cool. And so Alexa says, I can't provide information about a candidate, something like that. And then Alexa was asked about Kamala Harris. And Alexa is here bringing like a breakdown of all that Kamala would do, how she would be the first president and this and that. We clearly then see there is no fair share of data, all right? And now, this is basically done to enhance Kamila's position ahead of the presidential elections. But that's not fair, really. Even in the case of Nigeria, for example, we saw the elections where it happened that we all knew that something should not have happened and something should have happened, right? But a case of having Web 3.0 infrastructure on ground, we are able to build programs, smart contracts are programs really, right, that can ensure that there is decentralization of data. And so we're able to build programs that can empower fair share of data, that can empower a trustworthy environment of data and privacy. So why should we care, really? We should care because again, every one of us has data. Every one of us has data. And to be very fair, or to be very factual, there's a very likelihood that right now, there's a company making money out of your data. Very, very likelihood that right now, there's a company making money out of your data. And so, I think that that's a worthy reason why you should care. Because if there is no privacy, if there's no control, we learned about private keys earlier on, right? If there is no case for which you can declare what should be and what should not be of your data, then the world might be ruined really in no time. Take, for example, the case of the elections I just said. More people might now be inclined to vote for Kamala just because they are hearing good things about her, right? And that might not be the case because, again, everyone should have freedom of speech, freedom of association. And so Web 3.0 actually brings that into perspective. And also, with Web 3.0, servers promise to be more resilient. We all know that when AWS probably crashes, for the most part of it, most of our organizations might have downtime. A lot of us, because we are building on that. There was a time GitHub crashed, and what happened? No one was able to do stuff. No one was able to push. There was a time Yahoo crashed, and what happened? No one was able to do stuff. But that can't happen with Web 3.0 because for every node, there is an exact copy of the data, right? And so we have protected data, we have safe and exact copies, and we are good regardless of a crash. So think of it like a jigsaw puzzle. Removing one still has like the exact copy on the other cards, and so we're in good hands. And also better marketing really, because now you're not going to get manipulated content really. That's essentially what Web 3.0 does for us. Okay, so in the light of the pros that Web 3.0 brings for us, we also need to come to recognize that there are challenges as well associated with it. One of which is scalability issues, difficult to regulate, user experience complexity, and it's not eco-friendly. Of course, in the light of eco-friendly, you have to mind these things. In the light of difficult to regulate, we live in a world where authorities want to regulate things, right? And they might not be pleased with these things. And so I think that that's the reason why it's really slow, because authorities want to regulate. We learned how Nigeria had a lot of back and forth with crypto regulation issues. And so, at the end of the day, we just need to recognize that the goal is the goal. And the goal is to decentralize our data. We want to make it possible that individuals have more control of their data. We want to make it possible that data is more secure and reliant, right? We currently do not have that with Web 2.0. We didn't have that also in the past. And so Web 3.0 really brings us to that future that we will, birth such. Thank you, guys. And it was great being here to speak about this.